Hey everybody, welcome back to FeedbackLoop. I'm Joey.
And I am Jeremy.
And this week I'm really, really excited because we get to talk about an album by a band that I love called Pile. And the album is All Fiction, and it just came out last month. Last month? Is it March?
It's been a couple weeks. Yeah, it's March now. We are firmly in March.
Okay, cool.
It came out 2 weeks ago as of this recording.
February 17th, 2023.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I'm over here on the West Coast, so I get all of my albums 3 hours earlier.
Yeah.
So it came out on the 16th for me.
Oh my
but at
God.
like 9 p.m. at night. So I did listen to it on the 16th and not the 17th. So I actually heard it before you did.
Yeah.
I believe, because I assume that you didn't stay up and listen to it at midnight.
Yeah, I was sleeping.
Yeah, which is understandable. So I think for this episode we're just gonna talk about the album, and I'm excited and curious to hear Joey's thoughts on said album, because I have some thoughts. I don't have as many thoughts, I don't think. I didn't write as many notes, I should say, but yeah, we're gonna feel it out. It's gonna be kind of like our old format, I guess, because we're hoping to go track by track, I guess, and see what Joey thinks. I almost called you Johnny.
Oh my God.
What Joey thinks about the album as he made his way through it and makes his way through it today. And I'll just kind of chime in my thoughts on songs and themes and stuff as we go.
I am very excited to hear what you think of this album, because I feel like
so I like it.
Okay.
I'll say that much. I really like it. I think it's my favorite Pile album so far.
Oh my God, you like it more than Green and Gray?
I do.
Oh my God,
I do a lot.
Okay.
So I guess already derailing a little bit. Or at least breaking our unstructured structure. This album is so dark and moody, and I fucking love it. Because I don't know, there are some parts, like when I go back and listen to Green and Gray, some of the tracks don't land the same way. They, like, obviously there's still like a lot of the dark moodier tracks on that, but there's also the more like fast-paced punky kind of like rocky kind of things, which don't land as well for me, I think. And that's something that this album does well, is that there are some more upbeat sections and some more like aggressive parts, but for the most part it feels a lot more chilled out than Green and Gray did, just like as an overall average kind of deal.
It definitely does. Hell yeah, me too. Like, not to further deepen us down this rabbit hole, but like I feel like Green and Gray, after hearing this album, Green and Gray is a good barrier, I guess, between what I consider to be older Pile sound and what at the time I felt like they were going towards, and now have confirmed that they're going towards.
In their and they've sound. Arrived, I think.
Yeah, they're here.
To some degree, they're here. They've made it to where they were going. I mean, I guess there's not like an end point necessarily to the journey, but yeah, I agree. I think even listening to this has made me kind of like go back and listen to like Songs Done Together Alone, and then the whatever that ambient album was, I can't remember the title of it.
In the Corners of a Sphere-Filled Room.
That one. Or something like that.
Yeah. It's something. It's something. There's a corners and there's sphere and a room.
Yeah, there's spheres filling, corners filling a sphere room. But yeah. So I don't know. I think this album made things click in a lot of good ways for me, and I think that's why it's my favorite Pile album. Not that Green and Gray didn't click with me, but this just like cements it, I guess.
Well, hell yeah. Speaking of all that slow stuff, I mean, it starts off... I'm not going to do our old segues because
just talk, man. Just let it happen. Okay.
So it starts off with It Comes Closer is the title, or not the title track, the opening track. And It Comes Closer, fun fact, the live the live show that Rick did and streamed it at the Church of the Covenant in Boston, this song was on there, and I was like going through writing out the track list in OneNote as it was happening, because I was like, I want to see like what he's played, like what he's playing here, and what he's like brought into his new sound and everything, because this is a sound that's been building really since we heard it on Songs Known Together Alone, and it's just a cool new sound that I like a whole lot. But It Comes Closer was one of the tracks from there. There were 2 tracks, and that was one of them. And it was so nice to get to go back to that OneNote document and just be like, I know the title now.
Yeah.
I can write it in
I
here.
can fill it in. I know what that song is, and I can listen to it whenever I want. It's a good song.
Yeah,
It's a great album opener for sure.
I agree. It sets the tone really well because it's just kind of this slow, like you said, more chilled out sound. It's still got like the lyrical content that I feel like Rick is known for making, where it's
Yeah.
just like it really makes you like think about yourself in a way that like I just feel like he's really good at writing lyrics that can almost relate. Like they're so personal, but they're
also
also
like abstract.
yeah, they're abstract enough for you to pick up on it, and it feels like it could be written about a specific thing in your life because you're hearing it, even though like he's never met any of us, but he just writes it in such a way that it just resonates, and
Yeah, I agree.
it's nice.
There's a line later in one of the songs when we get to it that I'll call out that really stands out to me
Hell yeah.
in this album.
But yeah, dude, It Comes Closer, great opening track, and then it kicks right into the second track, Loops, which was it was the first single off of the album that came out last year. And every time I hear it, I get taken back to the original hype of like a new Pile song.
Yeah.
And then knowing that a new album was coming, and I was just like, oh my fucking God. Like, I remember being in the car and I was just like, pulled up Pile on Spotify, and this single was there, and it was like, it was released 2 hours ago. And I was like, what the fuck? Okay.
Yeah. I don't dislike Loops.
Mm-hmm.
I think as a single, it's strange.
Yeah.
I don't know. Parts of it just don't work with me. It has the more aggressive, like upbeat stuff, but like this song is only 3.5 minute long. It feels like it's 10 minutes long, and that's not a bad thing at all for me because it covers so much ground. I think that there's I mean, this whole album does. There's this kind of like ebb and flow, this push and pull, and like Loops. I think listening to it as a single, it feels jarring, but within the context of this whole album, I think it fits perfectly, and I really like the track, even if I don't like the track as a track by itself.
Yeah, and I feel like Pile's really good about that, like having songs that fit really well into an album structure, and that's what I like about him. Because I had not necessarily the same thought. I immediately liked this song, but it had me coming off the heels of Songs Known Together Alone, which is, I know it's a Pile album, but it's also like Rick orchestrated it. So I didn't know if that was just going to be a one-off sound because he was the main one doing it, or if it was a sound that they were going to bring forward. And then whenever I heard this is the first single, I was like, okay, maybe that's not the direction they're going. Because it doesn't sound like anything I've heard from Pile before, but it also has the same general structure as a lot of their older, more energetic stuff, like the pounding drums, the kind of discordant guitar lines that kick it off. And it's, I mean, I like that about it, but like I played it with Alyssa in the car, and she's already not necessarily a Pile fan. And like most of the way through the song, she's like, I don't think I can tell what the song's trying to be. Like, it sounds like industrial, it sounds rock, it sounds like it's like trying to go for like an electronic thing with some of the sounds in there. And I was just like, yeah, that's, I like that.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what my impression was at first too. Is just like I didn't have expectations for it, and I still didn't get what I expected, kind of a thing, because it was just it's a strange song, but again, it works perfectly in its place on the album, I think.
Yeah,
I just feel like it was a weird choice to be a single.
Yeah, because it comes closer, which is, like we said, a really slow song to set the mood for the album. Then Loops picks it up with the energy, and then that builds into the next song, Gardening Hours, which kind of does a fake out at the beginning for like the first couple of seconds, where it's like it starts to get slow again. And then it just goes into like what I can only describe as like organized chaos, because it's like it's not necessarily even them picking up the energy. It's like everything's kind of like combating.
There's a lot of tension.
Yeah, there's
a lot of just like very contrasting and like you said, combative sounds that are it's chaos, like you said.
It definitely has like a signature Pile sound where there's like the nice melodic peaceful sounds going into an intense energy, but it has a lot of like the new pile sound, where like I was watching, actually it might have been reading that interview that you shared with me
with Bandcamp.
from, yeah, with Bandcamp. And I think this is where I read it, but it was like this was the first album that they actually like used a click track on and like did a lot of stuff like that. And you can tell just based on how a lot of the stuff kind of works together that
Yeah,
there
it's
was.
weird because like sorry to cut you off. It's
Oh
it's
no.
very tight
Mm-hmm.
in that manner, but I think they use it against itself in a lot of ways where they're like using a click track to figure out where things shouldn't fall and then putting things there just to
Hell
kind
yeah.
of like create that kind of chaotic tension.
Yeah, there's a few tracks on this album where I feel like that had to be what happened. Like there's one in particular
Yeah.
where, with a guitar part where I'm just like, holy shit, how can, which I'm not to give it away, but it's the other song that was from the concert where I
Mhm.
was like, how the fuck is he playing this and
Yeah.
like and singing at the same time? Because
Yeah.
like I feel like my brain would just melt if I tried to do that. But
I
yeah,
can't sing and play anything, so
I can only do like if I've practiced like a picking pattern enough, which I guess that's all it is. You need to practice it enough so it's second
right.
nature.
Muscle
But like,
memory.
but yeah, I as far as non-single tracks from the album go, I feel like this one stands out simply because I like that. Like every time I listen to the song, I find something different about it that I do like because of all of the stuff they have building the tension in the more energetic parts, but then they kind of mellow it out with like the intervals
Yeah.
of the nice chill sounds, and it's cool.
Yeah. It's got a good ebb and flow to
Yeah.
it for sure. I think I'm gonna say that a million times this album just because there's this like squeeze and then a release and then a squeeze. Just the tension on this album is great and they masterfully play with it.
And then fucking next song, Link Arms, it shakes it up with a nice slow build. Like this song, it doesn't have the necessarily back and forth that Gardening Hours has. And this one I probably have the least to say about just because I don't know if it's where it falls on the album or what. Because I do feel like the second half of this album is stronger than the first, at least. Maybe I shouldn't say stronger. Maybe I should say more impactful
Mhm.
from listening. Um, but then Link Arms, like it comes right before where I feel like the album kind of like ramps up, and then and
Yeah.
then
So I mentioned that I had a favorite track just before we started recording,
mhm.
and then I was like, well, maybe it's tracks, and maybe it's just like a sequence. Link Arms into Blood, and
Yeah,
Blood is my favorite track on the album,
yes,
but I think Link Arms does a really great job of setting it up because it just like Link Arms is 5.5 minutes long. It's one of the longest tracks on the album, but it just feels like this constant like build, this progression
yeah,
where it in itself maybe doesn't have a lot to it, but just the way it kind of builds up into Blood, which I think is the best track on the album. I fucking love the song Blood,
dude.
which is the fifth track, and it's I just love it. It's so good. I actually bought a ticket to the live show and I ordered the vinyl last week or not last week, I guess, when the album came out. I listened to it the first time. I was like, God, I have to see this live,
Yeah.
just because like it's so good. It's
Oh
so
my
good, and like Rick, I love Rick's voice, and Blood is such an interesting song to me because it's pretty bare bonesy, I guess, for a lot of it, where there's
yeah,
just like that guitar lick going, but it's a very simple guitar lick. It's a little bit discordant, I guess, and not necessarily melodic in the way that you would expect a lot of songs to be. But his voice, his vocal performance over it just punches so hard, and
hell
and
yeah,
he the melodies, the words he uses, just everything about his performance on Blood just sends me.
dude. I 100% agree. I fucking love this song. This is, in case people hadn't pieced it together, the other song that was from the Church of the Covenant set, and this was the one that I was just talking about, where it's like I don't understand how he plays this guitar part because it
Yeah,
is so not the same as what he's singing. Like it
it's
is
very
just
rhythmic. Yeah, they
yeah,
sound completely disconnected.
and it's just so. good for that. Like I fucking love it, and I love every lyric on this song, but it's just like I don't fucking know, dude. Like it's like a story. It takes you on a fucking journey. I could sit here and just read the whole song
Yeah,
because I was literally just looking at the Genius lyrics like what can I say right now? But I can't because I can't pick out a single
right. You just be
lyric
repeating the lyrics.
exactly. But it's I if people are not interested in this album, I would at least recommend listening to this song.
Yeah,
It's
agree.
just it's too good to not listen to. But yeah, Rick's vocals, the way Rick sings, how he's so and to kind of go on a side tangent, I really like the whole like vibe that he's putting out with because he's put out videos for all 4 of the singles that came off this album, and I just love like the artistic direction of the
Yeah,
videos. And I'm assuming he was very involved in that, but yeah, I just like it.
it's so like abstract and trippy, and like it pairs perfectly with the music, especially here with Blood. Like
Yeah.
how there's so much like the disconnect, just kind of like adds a layer to that. It's very phenomenal. I actually really like the vinyl for this came in today, and I was looking at it, and it has like a poster that
Hmm.
comes with it. That like on one side it has, I don't know. Did you get the vinyl? I
I
think you
don't.
talked about it, but
Yeah.
so it has like lyrics on one side of the poster for all the songs that are like on pieces of paper, as if you had like written them all on these pieces of paper, which he might have. But I feel like there's a lot of revision that happens in songwriting that it wouldn't
Yeah.
just leave like a clean piece of paper with all the words or whatever. But the other side is this kind of like abstract, weird, um, kind of like a mosaic almost of like painted, just like a painted scene from like within the studio, but it has the very strange abstract art style of like the album cover or like some of those videos, so where it's there's clearly people and instruments, but it's all kind of obscured in very strange ways and interesting. I really like the insert they put in that album.
God. What color is the vinyl? Is it black or is it like a different color? I know.
I think it's just black.
Okay.
I don't have it handy because it's in the other room, but I'm pretty sure it's just black.
For some reason, I was thinking I heard something about there being a blue vinyl for this album, but
There might be. I think I might have just gotten the base edition because I also bought a ticket to see their show at the same
I
time.
need to do that. I would fly to Seattle to go see them. Oh my
Yeah,
god.
there is a Sea Blue limited edition LP.
Okay, that's what
It's
I
sold
thought.
out,
Yeah,
which
of course.
I don't know if I got the blue or not. I'm pretty sure I just got a black one.
Oh my god.
Sorry,
Speaking
completely derailed.
speaking of colors, the 6th track is called Lowered Rainbow. it
Indeed.
was this was I believe the last single to come out off of the album.
Yeah, I think so.
And it's a sing I think I might have talked a little bit about it whenever it actually came out on another episode, so I won't go super crazy into it, but this one just like has this crazy heavy piano part throughout. Not heavy as in like metal, like rock and roll heavy, but it's just like banging on keys, and they're kind of jazzy throughout the whole
Yeah,
song. It's like I don't
it's
know. I
kind of
just
spacey.
yeah, spacey is a good word that I would use for it. Except that you used it because I didn't think
We can both use it. Yeah, it's very like floaty and
Yeah,
like I don't know. It's space jazz,
there we
which
go.
are I guess just modern jazz, honestly, at that point, because
Yeah.
so much of like modern jazz music has those kind of vibes to it. But it's an interesting track because Rick is mainly a guitarist, and a lot
Hmm.
of the Pile songs feel like they're built around his guitar playing, and this one is not.
Yeah, and that's something that I also noticed on Songs Known Together Alone. There were a lot of reorganizations of old tracks where it seemed like it was very keyboard focused,
Yeah,
and he was the one, like judging by the videos, he was the one playing the keyboard and everything. So that was something I was hoping to see more of on this album, and we did. And I don't know, man. This is
yeah,
one of those songs that makes me realize how far Pile has come, coming from like their old stuff to now, where I'm just like, they fucking grew up. Like I feel like this album is like the artistic vision that Rick has had like in his head from the beginning, and like it's being realized, and it's just a cool thing to be a part of.
Yeah, to go along with what you said about the band kind of growing up, I think this track specifically, like, it's more than just Rick, right? Like, he
Yeah,
has a drummer in Pile, and I'm assuming other musicians. I mean, I
yeah,
know other musicians because there's fucking string sections in this album that are just
yeah,
so good, so choice. But like, even the drums specifically on this track are just like so nice. They fit very well. It's not the aggressive, jarring kind of drumming necessarily that was on Green and Gray, even though there is that stuff still in this album and this track specifically. It's nice to see that kind of restraint to where it kind of like fits the chill, jazzy vibe with the drums. And I think on this album as a whole, like, it's obviously Rick is the main driving force for a lot of the songwriting and the musical direction, but it's nice to see that the rest of the band is still kind of growing with him as well and kind of able to fulfill the vision that they have.
yeah, definitely. And just on that note, the drummer's name is Chris Cuss. I believe that's how you pronounce his last name. Really fucking great drummer. Like, to be able to keep up with a lot of the kind of off kilter
Yeah,
stuff
the
that
weird
goes
shit.
on. Yeah, like he does a flawless job. And then bassist Alex Malini, they they used to be a four piece. Now they're not. I think they used to have a second guitarist, I believe, named Matt. I can't remember his last name, but he
Becker.
Matt Becker. Okay, he isn't on this album. I think because I know like they were located in Boston. Rick moved to Nashville, and then I think Rick's back in Boston now, but I don't know if Matt moved or something. But now they were a four piece. Now they're a three piece.
There's still a four piece, according
They
to Wikipedia here.
what the
There is an
fuck?
additional guitarist named Chappie Hull
Chappie Hole.
who was on their previous this album and their previous studio album,
Oh shit.
Green and Gray.
Oh my god. Well, I
Fun
don't know.
facts.
I have I have my pile facts mixed up. I had seen the name Chappie Hole before, but I didn't know if that was like a guy that they toured with or what. Because like on Genius, which isn't necessarily the best indication of like
I mean, neither is
musicians.
Wikipedia for that matter.
Yeah, it's only got them three, but I don't know. Well, if you're still there, Matt Becker or Chappie Hole, great job. You've been in Pile. That's way more than I can say about my life.
And not to confuse things, but there was also a Matt Connery who played bass for the older Pile albums as well. So there was Matt Becker and Matt Connery. They both left the band between or before Green and Gray, which I guess is after Hair Shirt of Purpose.
Yeah.
So there's a new guitarist and drummer, or new guitarist and bassist for Green and Gray in All Fiction, and I guess presumably going forward.
Oh my god, I love a hair shirt of purpose. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about this
We
album.
keep forgetting
Oh my
what we're
god.
talking about.
It's almost like that's the title of track number 7. Forget
Pew
it.
pew pew! Air horn noises.
this
Bringing back the
one
segues.
this one is another great build up throughout the track. Like it starts off pretty slow and chilled out and then it like swells with these fucking strings, dude. I love the strings from
So
this
good.
album. It's so good. And then the pounding drums just coming through. Not pounding isn't like overwhelming, but like it just keeps this constant momentum and I feel like
Yeah.
that's a really good thing about this album is like the drums just do this great job of like keeping almost like if we're talking about combative tensions, it's like keeping the peace and finding a through line throughout it. And
Right.
it's this thing that I really appreciate every time I hear the whole album.
Yeah, I think the drums really like help solidify. I was listening to this album when I took a shower this morning, and I just had these like this vision that this album is someone watching a meteor. It's like, oh, it's a shooting star. Like, oh, that's pretty. And then it like gets more aggressive. It's like, oh shit, it's actually like it's coming for my planet. It's coming for me. Oh god, we're all gonna die, kind of a thing. And then it explodes into space dust, and it's all pretty again, kind of a thing. That's just kind of the vibe. And I think that's just like in part due to the amount of motion that is kind of within these tracks. And there's
yeah,
this kind of there's this feeling of things moving and going places that I think the drum really helps with.
I agree. And yeah, once again, shout out to Chris Cuss. You do great. You do great work.
Good shit,
I love
Chris.
I love your drum parts. And then moving on, since we fucking went off the rails, to Poisons, which is the 8th track, and also it was the second single off of the album. This is definitely my favorite of the singles.
Yeah,
Which,
I think I agree with that. I have a love-hate relationship with the song, but I think overall it's way more love than hate. I just again, as a single, it was kind of jarring to me
yeah,
because this one is also a bit more on the upbeat, kind of aggressive, rocky side of things. But it's so fascinating, this song, how he kind of like it's a constant back and forth, like a kind of a teeter-totter balancing between the more like weird abstract shit, and then he kind of like solidifies it, especially in the beginning of the song with his little howls where he goes how.
yeah,
It's just
yeah.
so like it's so fascinating to me and fun to listen to.
God, it is a fun song, and I think it reminds me of Old Pile, and that's why it was my favorite of the new singles because I hadn't heard this, I hadn't heard the whole album yet. Whenever I was making these these decisions,
Right.
like the other singles, like I really do like Lowered Rainbow, and I like the other single that we haven't talked about yet because it's the next song. But this one, it was like what I felt like was a good balance between what I thought was going to be the new Pile sound and the old. And it's also got one of my favorite lyrics out of the singles, the part of the, I guess, chorus, pre chorus, whatever it is. And it's safe to hide now, only a handful of giants watching you. Now heaven's a place where no one else is. And I
That
was
is
just like,
exactly the lyric that I was
oh,
going to call out because it's so good.
it
It hits
is.
perfectly in the song, and
Oh,
it feels like you kind of said that it's like it's incredibly relatable, but also like it feels like it's very specific to him,
yeah,
which is just, I guess, it's just marvelous.
it really is. Like, how, I don't know. Whenever I read Pile lyrics, or sing them or think about them or whatever, it just makes me feel like there's this upper tier of like artistry that I
Yeah,
can't even fathom it because he's writing like these
it's
insane,
pure poetry.
it really is. And I'm like, how can somebody think thoughts like that? But
Right. And
I'm
not only
glad.
think those thoughts and feel those feelings, but to put them into words and then use those words to kind of form a song around and
Yes,
just like have it come out so perfectly.
it's a really special thing to be able to like have that and then make music that doesn't clash with those lyrics. Like that works so well with them.
He's got his shit
But
together, man.
oh yeah, he definitely does. I don't know anything about his life,
But
but
yeah, maybe not his personal life. His artistic career is
yeah.
very, very charming.
So then the next track, Nude with a Suitcase, this was the third single off of the album. And this one, it was such a cool one because whenever he released it on Spotify, he released it with a little note that was like, I'm really proud of this song. And it just felt great to read that
Yeah.
because I like this song a whole lot. Like it's got this really nice electronic ambience throughout the whole thing. Like you can feel, even if you don't listen to the lyrics, you can feel that this is a very vulnerable track just in
Yeah.
the way that it sounds. And again, the drums on this track fucking just I don't know if I can go as far as to say they make the song, but they definitely are like the bow on top that's
Yeah.
keeping it together, I guess. But
Definitely.
it's
And then it
just
kind of
so
like
so
goes to like a
nice.
nice, like this is the longest track on the album. It's 6 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
14 seconds. And it covers a lot of ground in there, like I mentioned on Loops, that it felt like Loops was a 3.5 minute song that felt like it was twice as long, but this one actually is that length, and it fills it out entirely, and it like ends on a very like chill ambient note that kind of like eases you into the end of the album.
Yeah, it does. And to hear a track like this and then like know that Rick is proud of it is just a very good.
It's
It's a good.
heartwarming.
It's a good feeling. It is heartwarming. Like it's
Yeah.
nice where you're like, this whole album just in general sounds like such an advancement from their previous sound, and then to hear that he's actually happy with it is like it's a good feeling because I feel like even if I hadn't read that, I would feel like this. Just listening to it, I feel like this is where everything was going.
Yeah,
This
it's
is
an
this is
accomplishment.
yeah, this is the accomplishment, and it's just great. I don't know. I like it a lot.
It
But
is, and it perfectly sets up Neon Gray
oh my
as
god,
the
Neon
final
Gray.
track.
As soon as I saw this track name, I was like, I'm gonna fucking like this song.
Yeah, right. Neon Gray, just like visualizing that, like, okay, neon is something that's like bright, usually attracts a lot of attention, and gray is literally the farthest opposite from that.
Yeah. I was like, oh god. Oh man. And then like to play off of the Green and Gray
Yeah.
being the last album where it's like he's bringing that in. I don't know. I'm assuming he knows that
Oh,
would
for sure. For
yeah, like
sure.
it was intentional, but it was just this really cool, I don't know, through line. But god, it's just like it's such a a a very specific Pile sound, but it's also so fresh that it
Yeah.
just like the first time I heard it, it just like fucking hit me so hard. And I don't know if that's because it was the last track on this album that I had been greatly anticipating, and I liked the album, and now it was over. But it's something about it just got to me. And then the way that the line "golden and angled nice for digging at nothing without romance" is delivered in a very similar way to a previous lyric on another album.
Hmm.
The song is Bubblegum. It's delivered almost like the lyric, and the
The
teeth
same
are bent.
melody.
Yeah, it's like the same melody, and the teeth are bent and cracked against a tongue that won't rot out. And it's just like, whenever I heard that, I was just like, is this like what my entire life has been building
Yeah.
towards?
There's a culmination.
It's oh god, but yeah, it's excellent way to end the album, and I
Yeah, I
just
think
fucking
it
love it.
helps that it's so clean, right?
Yeah,
It's so clean, and then the song doesn't have as much of the kind of like rockier aggressive things. So to go along with that kind of clean and tight and like chill vibes, it's very like relaxing. It's the ultimate release, I
yeah,
suppose, that this album was kind of like the push and the pull of this album at this point is just relieving all of that tension with the final track, and even at the ending of like Nude with a Suitcase kind of leading into to Neon Gray. There's just it's such a good release, which is a great way to end an album. Which is
hell
like,
yeah,
okay, now I'm just zoning out. I'm taking my deep breath. I'm drinking water, to just kind of cleanse everything that's just happened and let it all sink in, kind of a deal, which is the perfect way to end an album like this.
it really is. I'm sad that it's over, but I'm happy that I get to listen to it as much as I want now.
Exactly. You can listen to it, and you're going to buy a plane ticket to come watch Pile with me.
Either that or make a 3-day drive or whatever.
Yeah, we'll,
Oh
we'll
my
make it
god,
happen. It's going to be
dude,
great. So that wraps up our discussion of All Fiction by Pile. Great album. Go check it out if you haven't already.
hell yeah,
Listen to it. Even if you don't like Pile, listen to it. You like
yeah,
Pile. Alyssa, I'm talking to you.
yeah.
Listen to this
Specifically,
album, Alyssa.
listen to this
You'll love it.
podcast,
Listen to
so
this
you know,
podcast.
so you know to listen to Pile.
Oh, in other news, next week we're going to be next episode. I always say next week. We used to be a weekly thing,
Yeah,
and then I got lazy. Got lazy? No, I just stopped keeping up. I've been
yeah.
lazy. Anyways, every other week's better schedule for me anyway. And in the next episode, we're going to be talking about something. We don't have a topic nailed down necessarily, but part
Yeah.
of that, we're going to be revisiting the genre dive kind of dealio, where we randomly generate a genre and do some exploration in that, and then come back and talk about our findings. And the genre that we will be diving into is German trance music,
Hell yeah.
which just sounds like a wonderful, great time.
Yeah. I'm pumped. I'm so excited. Whenever you first said that, because that was sometimes, not to pull back the curtain too much, sometimes we get a genre that we're like, that's not going to fucking work.
Yeah.
But the very first one that he pulled up was German trance, and it was instant, like, yes,
Yeah. No
this is where
do-overs.
I need to be listening to this right now.
Yeah, I think that'll be great. A good time. I haven't listened to trance music in a long time, at least not like intentionally seeking out trance music.
Yeah.
And what I had heard back in the day, was very like a very popularized and very specific type. So it'd be fun to kind of dive into some German trance. So you guys feel free to check some of that shit out. Send us some recommendations if you are an avid German trance listener, and let us know what you thought of this Pile album as well. And I guess we will see you in the next episode, as long as you stay in our feedback loop.
Listen to Pile.